Live, can we start over?
I'm not sure I can do it as well, but I will try.
Thank you.
The time is 9:06, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. The board members are participating via Zoom meeting. I'd like to welcome those who are participating via Zoom and those watching the board meeting via live streaming. The link to the meeting is on the district webpage under Board of Education. The streaming will run through the end of the meeting. If the board is on break or in closed session, the screen will fade to black and the sound will be muted. In the event there is a disruption in the audio portion, I will pause the meeting until it is reestablished. We have board member Stephen Otero participating via Zoom. Mr. Stephen Otero, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Frank Otero, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. David Vickers, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Eloy Hidon, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
And Mr. Gibson, you can hear me?
I can.
Perfect. Mr. Gibson, will you please announce a meeting?
I will. This meeting has been announced in accordance with the Open Meetings Resolution and is a legally constituted meeting of the Los Lunas Schools Board of Education.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Mr. Frank Otero, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Mr. Otero. Mr. Gibson, are there any changes or deletions to the agenda?
There are none, Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Gibson. I'll stand for a motion on the agenda.
Mr. Smith,
Mr. Frank Otero.
I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
Thank you, Mr. Otero. I have a motion by Mr. Frank Otero to approve the agenda as presented by Mr. Gibson and his staff. I'll stand for a second.
I will second that, Mr. President.
I have a second by Mr. David Vickers. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Frank Otero, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Otero, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Eloy Hidon, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. That will bring us to item number 5, approval of questions for superintendent candidates. So the board members were given multiple questions to choose from, including those solicited from the staff and community via SurveyMonkey posted on the district website. We had lists of questions done from numerous superintendent interviews over the past years here. Plus, we also had access to the results of the SurveyMonkey and the internet, which is a great place to come up with superintendent questions. So the questions were condensed and provided just a couple of minutes ago to the board members. And that being said, I will stand for a motion on item number 5.
I'll make a motion that we approve the questions as presented.
I have a motion by Mr. Stephen Otero to approve the questions for the superintendent candidates. I'll stand for a second.
I'll second that. This is Frank.
I have a second by Mr. Frank Otero. Thank you, sir. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Vickers. Mr. Frank Otero, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Otero. Mr. Stephen Otero, how do you vote?
Before I provide my vote, are these questions available to the community at this point in time?
So we haven't released any of the questions. We're going to approve them now, and then we'll discuss the distribution of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
I vote yes.
Thank you, Mr. Stephen Otero. Mr. Eloy Hidon, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. The questions for the superintendent interview have passed 5-0. I'm going to get a copy of this to Ms. Wolf, who has not seen it yet, and we will get them finalized and then find a way to get them to the applicants prior to their interview. I believe that's all we needed to decide right now, right, Ms. Wolf?
Mr. Smith?
And send them direct, or send it to the right before their interview. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's it. That's all I need.
Mr. Hidon?
Was that the only thing that we needed to have resolution on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I'm gonna have to leave this meeting.
Okay, just let me get through item number 6. You got 30 seconds?
Okay, go ahead.
This brings us to the announcement of meetings. Please, the interviews are going to be taking place via closed session beginning at 12:30. A special meeting will be held this evening at 5:30 to name the superintendent pending successful negotiations of a contract. On December 14th, there is a closed session via Zoom at 12:30 p.m. Limited personnel matters, specifically superintendent candidate interviews. There will be 3 of those. On December 14th, there will be a special board meeting via Zoom at 5:30 p.m. Action regarding superintendent of schools. This brings us to item number 7, adjournment. I'll stand for a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn this part of the meeting.
I have a motion by Mr. Stephen Otero to adjourn. I'll stand for a second.
I second that motion.
Second by Mr. David Vickers. Mr. Vickers, how do you vote?
Yes.
Frank Otero, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Stephen Otero, how do you vote?
Yes.
Mr. Eloy Hidon, how do you vote?
Yes.
And I vote yes. Thank you, everybody. See you later.
Thank you.
Good day.